The Storms River Pass was the first of a series of classic garden route passes to be built by Thomas Bain in the late 1800s. The pass bears all of Bain's hallmark features with sweeping curves and high retaining walls while still retaining a reasonable gradient for ox wagon traffic, in this case 1 in 15. Today the pass falls wholly under the jurisdiction of the National Parks Board and no vehicles are allowed to drive the pass. The good news is that you can always walk or cycle it. The pass starts on the western side on the edge of the Storms River village, close to all the Adventure Centre bases at an altitude of 238 metres. The road immediately plunges into dense indigenous forests with towering yellow woods while steadily descending as it follows the mountain's contours. Long before the hum of engines echoed through the Tsitsikamma, before concrete bridges leapt across impossible gorges, there was a road that clung to the cliffs like a stubborn idea. The old Storms River Pass. Constructed in the late 1800s by the legendary road engineer Thomas Bain, this pass was not merely a route from one place to another. It was an act of defiance against terrain that seemed designed to resist human passage. To understand the Storms River Pass, one must first imagine the landscape as it was when Bain first stood before it. The Tsitsikamma was wild, dense and largely impenetrable. Towering yellow woods and stinkwoods crowded the slopes. Ravines split the earth without warning. Rivers cut deep, twisting gorges through ancient rock. Mist rolled in from the Indian Ocean, clinging to the forest canopy and shrouding everything in shifting grey veils. It was certainly beautiful, but it was also very unforgiving. In the 1870s, the Cape Colony was expanding eastward. Settlers, traders and farmers needed reliable routes to move goods and livestock. The existing tracks were treacherous, often little more than muddy trails that turned into torrents in winter. Crossing the Storms River itself was an ordeal. Wagons would descend precariously to the riverbed and attempt a crossing that depended entirely on the river's mood. When the waters rose, all travel stopped. Thomas Bain, already known for his skill in pass building, was tasked with a seemingly impossible brief: create a safe and permanent route through this hostile terrain. Bain was no stranger to difficulty. He had learned road building from his father, Andrew Geddes Bain, another master of mountain engineering. But the Storms River would test him in ways few projects had done before. Construction began in 1879. There were no dynamite blasting machines as we know them today, no hydraulic excavators, no mechanized drills. The workforce relied on picks, shovels, wheelbarrows and black powder for blasting. Much of the labour was done by convicts, working under harsh conditions in a remote and isolated environment. Supplies had to be transported in. Food, tools, timber, everything came at a cost measured in sweat and time. Bain approached the landscape not with brute force, but with respect. Instead of carving a direct, punishing line through the cliffs, he allowed the road to follow the natural contours of the land. The pass winds and bends with deliberate grace, as though it is negotiating with the mountains rather than conquering them. Its curves are tight, its gradients carefully calculated for ox wagons that needed manageable inclines to haul heavy loads. The most dramatic feature of the pass was its descent into the Storms River Gorge. Here, Bain engineered a route that zigzagged sharply downwards, hugging sheer rock faces. Retaining walls of carefully stacked stones support sections of the road. These dry stone walls, built without mortar, relied on precision and craftsmanship to remain stable, and many still stand today, more than a century later. At the bottom of the gorge, Bain designed a low-water bridge across the river. This crossing, practical yet vulnerable to flooding, replaced the dangerous fords that had come before it. Whilst it did not eliminate the power of the river during heavy storms, it provided a far safer and more reliable passage in ordinary conditions. Construction took several years, and workers battled landslides, collapsing rock faces, injuries and disease. The forest resisted every clearing. Bain turned freshly cut sections into mud, and yet, slowly, the road took shape. When the pass was finally opened in 1884, it transformed travel through the region. Wagons could now move between Plettenberg Bay and Humansdorp with greater safety and consistency. Trade improved. Communities that had once felt isolated were drawn closer together. The pass became a lifeline. .7 kilometers from the start, the forests open up where a sunny picnic spot awaits right next to the river. Bain's original Stinkwood Bridge was ultimately replaced by the concrete bridge still in use today. This is also the lowest part of the pass at an altitude of 85 meters. The eastern ascent begins immediately after the bridge crossing and climbs relentlessly towards the eastern plateau. The Storms River Pass's greatest achievement was not economic, it was symbolic. The road demonstrated what careful engineering and determined human effort could accomplish without destroying the landscape entirely. Bain's design respected the terrain. Rather than imposing straight lines and aggressive cuts, he worked with the folds of the earth. Travellers of the time wrote of the pass with a mixture of awe and nervous admiration. The descent into the gorge was breathtaking, in both senses of the word. Oxen strained against wagons as brakes squealed on steep corners. Drivers had to remain very vigilant. A moment's inattention could spell disaster. Yet, the reward was immense. The view from certain bends revealed layers of forested slopes falling away into mist-filled valleys, with a faint roar of the river echoing below. Over time, as motor vehicles replaced wagons and engineering advanced, the narrow and winding Storms River Pass began to show its limitations. By the mid-20th century, traffic demands required something faster and less hazardous. In the 1950s, a new road was constructed high above the gorge, including the impressive Paul Sauer Bridge, which is today called the Storms River Bridge, which spans the chasm in a single dramatic arc. The old pass was gradually bypassed. For many roads, bypassing means forgetting, but not for the Storms River Pass. Today, the old route remains a treasured relic of South Africa's engineering heritage. It's no longer a main thoroughfare, but those who travel it experience something rare, a journey back in time. The forest feels as dense as ever. The air is cool and heavy, with a recent scent of damp earth and leaves. Sunlight filters through towering trees in shifting patterns. The road surface, though maintained, still carries the narrowness and intimacy of its original design. Traversing the pass today is less about reaching a destination and more about savoring the experience. Each bend reveals another glimpse of gorge or cliff or cascading stream. One can almost hear the echoes of pickaxes striking stone, the shouted commands of overseers, and the rumble of wagon wheels. Thomas Bain could hardly have imagined that his pass would one day be admired not merely as infrastructure, but as heritage, a monument to persistence and ingenuity. Yet, that is precisely what it has become. The old pass stands as a reminder of a different era of engineering, one measured not in speed but in patience. It tells a story of men who faced down a wilderness armed with little more than determination and basic hand tools. It speaks of a time when roads were shaped by human hands and human judgment, guided by an intimate understanding of the terrain. The pass has now inadvertently become the epicenter for adventure activities around Storms River, and besides hiking and mountain biking, you can also try your hand at abseiling, blackwater rafting, a treetop canopy tour, a zip slide, horse riding, or visit the elephant and wolf sanctuaries. These are a little further west along the N2, closer to Plettenberg Bay. The most famous hike in South Africa is the renowned Otter Trail, which starts at the Storms River mouth. The pass ends at the 7.6 kilometer mark at an altitude of 223 meters above sea level.